You swapped the bad food for the good food. You followed every rule. You're still not losing weight. Here's why. The diet food industry built a prison and handed you the key as a reward. 1. You switched from regular soda to diet soda and you felt righteous about it. 0 calories, 0 sugar, pure virtue in a can. You're basically a nutritionist at this point, sipping your fizzy responsible beverage while the people around you slowly destroy themselves. Here's the problem. Diet soda doesn't help you lose weight. For many people, it actively works against it. Artificial sweeteners like aspartame, sucralose, and acesulfame K are 200 to 700 times sweeter than sugar. And that extreme sweetness recalibrates your brain's reward threshold until naturally sweet foods taste boring and unsatisfying. A University of Texas Health Science Center study tracking 475 adults over 10 years found that diet soda drinkers had 70% greater waist circumference increases than non-drinkers. Then there's the cephalic phase insulin response, where your body detects sweetness, releases insulin preemptively, real sugar never arrives, blood sugar drops, and hunger signals fire. A 2017 meta-analysis in the Canadian Medical Association Journal reviewed 37 studies and found diet soda associated with increased risk of obesity, metabolic syndrome, and type 2 diabetes, the exact conditions it's sold to prevent. And behaviorally, people who drink diet soda consume an average of 90 to 200 more daily calories from food because their brain subconsciously treats the saved calories as a budget to spend elsewhere. You punched your own time card and then went home. The factory still ran, you just weren't watching. 2. Low-fat yogurt is sitting in the health food aisle with a picture of fruit on it and the phrase, "only 100 calories" in cheerful font, and you feel good about grabbing it. You've made the responsible dairy choice. You've avoided the fat. You're basically winning the morning. Here's what actually happened. When food manufacturers stripped the fat out of yogurt, they were left with something that tastes like sour, watery disappointment. Their fix was sugar and a lot of it. A standard 6-ounce container of flavored low-fat yogurt contains 15 to 26 grams of added sugar, which puts it in direct caloric competition with a candy bar. Beyond the sugar problem, the fat that was removed was doing real work. Fat in full-fat yogurt slows gastric emptying, meaning you stay full longer. Without it, the yogurt digests rapidly, your blood sugar spikes, and hunger comes back faster than it has any right to after something you ate for breakfast. The fat removal also strips fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K, which your body cannot absorb without dietary fat present in the same meal. A 2016 study published in Circulation tracking 130,000 participants found that full-fat dairy was associated with lower rates of obesity and type 2 diabetes compared to low-fat versions. And then there's the fruit at the bottom, which is not fruit. It's a heavily sweetened jam. They fixed the label and broke the food. You paid a premium for the privilege of eating flavored sugar with a calcium afterthought. 3. Granola is basically compressed outdoorsy health. Hikers eat it. People who wake up before 6 and do things outside eat it. It comes in craft paper bags with a mountain on them and a font that implies someone handcrafted this in a barn, lovingly. It must be doing something right. Here's the brutal reality. Commercial granola is dessert wearing a wilderness costume, and the calorie numbers will make you sit down. A single cup of name-brand granola averages 400 to 600 calories, 20 to 30 grams of added sugar, and 12 to 18 grams of fat, which makes it more calorie-dense per cup than most fast food items you would never dream of eating for breakfast. Granola's caloric base is oats combined with sweeteners like honey, maple syrup, cane sugar, and brown rice syrup, then roasted with oil. The roasting process caramelizes all of that together into a candy-like coating. The more clusters and chunks in your granola, the more binding sugar and fat were added to hold them together. Now look at the serving size on the back of the bag. It is 1/4 cup, roughly 28 grams, a portion so small that most people consume 3 to 4 times that amount before they've even looked up from the bowl. And organic granola, natural granola, artisan granola. Same caloric density. The oats are still there. They just gave up. 4. Rice cakes are the food choice of people who have truly committed to the bit. They are flavorless, powdery discs that exist at the intersection of willpower and culinary nihilism. Eating them is a statement. It says, you are not here to enjoy yourself, and you are managing something. You have traded flavor for virtue, and you believe in that trade. Here's what that trade actually bought you. Rice cakes have a glycemic index of 82, which is higher than white bread at 70 to 75, and higher than table sugar at 65. The glycemic index measures how rapidly blood glucose rises after eating, and rice cakes are sprinting. Despite being only 35 calories per cake, the rapid blood sugar spike triggers a corresponding insulin surge, followed by a pronounced crash that drives hunger within 30 to 60 minutes of eating them. Rice cakes provide under 1 gram of protein per cake, virtually no fat, and negligible fiber. Those are the 3 macronutrients responsible for satiety, and your rice cake has essentially none of them. You have consumed pure, fast-digesting starch. The flavored varieties, cheddar, caramel, ranch, add sodium and artificial flavors that make overconsumption easy and common. And studies on foods labeled low-calorie show a documented portion distortion effect where people eat 2 to 3 times more than they would of unlabeled foods. You chose the option that makes you hungrier than eating nothing would have. That is not discipline. That is a trap with a pleasant crunch. 5. Veggie chips and veggie straws come in bags decorated with tomatoes, spinach, and beets. You can see green specks in the chip itself. The front of the bag says things like, made with real vegetables in confident lettering. This feels like a salad you can eat at your desk. The problem is that the first ingredient on that bag is not spinach. It is not tomato. It is potato starch or potato flour, and the vegetable powders that give the chips their color and their name appear 6th, 7th, or 8th on the ingredient list, contributing less than 2% of actual vegetable content by weight. You are eating a potato chip with a vegetable-themed paint job. Per ounce, veggie straws average 130 calories, 7 grams of fat, and 17 grams of carbohydrates, which is nearly identical to classic potato chips at 130 to 150 calories, 7 to 8 grams of fat, and 15 to 16 grams of carbohydrates. The fiber content, which is the primary nutritional reason to eat vegetables, is typically 1 gram per serving in veggie chips versus 4 to 8 grams in an equivalent portion of actual vegetables. Nielsen market research found that veggie branding increases consumer perception of healthiness by 42% and willingness to pay by 28% despite no meaningful nutritional difference. Someone dipped a chip in vegetable-flavored dust and charged you extra for the story. The spinach in there has never met a spinach plant it could pick out of a lineup. 6. You made the switch. White bread is out. Whole wheat is in. The packaging has a field of grain on it. You feel like a person who has made a fundamentally sound decision about their relationship with carbohydrates, and you are ready to move on. Here's the inconvenient reality. Most commercial whole wheat bread is not meaningfully different from white bread when it comes to your blood sugar. The glycemic index of most commercial whole wheat bread falls between 69 and 74, which is nearly identical to white bread at 70 to 75. The grinding process used to make commercial whole wheat flour destroys the fibrous structure that would otherwise slow digestion, so your body handles it almost the same way. U.S. labeling law requires only that whole grain appears as the first ingredient. It says nothing about the percentage. Many products labeled whole wheat contain as little as 20 to 30% actual whole grain flour, with refined white flour making up the remainder. And the words wheat bread, multigrain, and 7-grain carry no legal whole grain requirement whatsoever. They can be entirely refined flour with caramel coloring added to make the bread look darker and more convincing. True whole grain bread requires visible grain texture, at least 3 grams of fiber per slice, and whole grain listed first. Most supermarket whole wheat bread fails at least 2 of those 3. You paid more for a tan. The grain on the bag is doing more fiber work than the grain in the bread. 7. It has 20 grams of protein on the label. You eat it instead of lunch because you have a plan, and the plan involves macros. The bar is dense and chocolate coated, and somewhere in the middle there might be a caramel situation. This is discipline with a wrapper. Most protein bars are candy bars that joined a gym once and never stopped talking about it. The average mainstream protein bar contains 20 to 30 grams of sugar, 250 to 400 calories, and uses protein isolates combined with chocolate coatings, caramel layers, or cookie pieces that are nutritionally indistinguishable from confectionery. The low-sugar versions use sugar alcohols like maltitol, which provides 2.1 calories per gram compared to sugar's 4, so not free, and causes significant gastrointestinal distress, including bloating and diarrhea, that people routinely misinterpret as some kind of cleansing effect. Many bars contain seed oils as binding agents, adding 5 to 10 grams of highly processed fat per bar. The satiating effect of protein in bar form is significantly lower than equivalent protein from whole food sources because the protein is pre-denatured and digests more rapidly. A 2013 study in the journal Appetite found that people who consumed a protein bar as a snack ate an average of 100 to 150 more calories at their next meal than those who consumed no snack at all. The bar triggered appetite rather than suppressing it. You paid $4 for a candy bar that went to the gym once. 8. It's fruit, it's liquid, it's cold and colorful, and it came from a place with a name that includes fresh or boost or green in the logo. You ordered the large because you're replacing a meal, and this is obviously the healthiest thing on the block. A large 32-ounce commercial fruit smoothie averages 600 to 800 calories and 80 to 120 grams of sugar. A can of cola contains approximately 39 grams of sugar. The blending process completely destroys the cellular structure of the fruit, eliminating the intact fiber that would otherwise slow sugar absorption. Without that fiber, the fructose hits your bloodstream at nearly the same speed as soda, regardless of how many kale leaves were emotionally added. The boosts don't help. Protein powder, superfood powder, nut butter, acai. Each addition contributes 50 to 150 calories, and a smoothie with 3 added boosts can casually exceed 1,000 calories while feeling like a responsible decision. Juice bases used in commercial smoothies, like apple juice and mango juice, are sugar-concentrated liquids that add significant caloric load before a single piece of fruit has been touched. A 2013 British Medical Journal study found that whole fruit consumption was associated with reduced diabetes risk, while fruit juice consumption was associated with increased risk. And the difference came entirely from the fiber matrix destroyed by blending. You liquefied 6 pieces of fruit, removed the only part that made them functional, and called it a meal replacement. 9. It's from a plant. It's marketed in earthy packaging next to the raw honey. The glycemic index is lower than regular sugar, and you found the loophole, the good sweetener, the one that doesn't count the same way. You're basically hacking sweetness. Agave syrup is up to 90% fructose, which makes it significantly higher in fructose than high fructose corn syrup, and your liver is the only organ in your body capable of metabolizing fructose. Commercial agave nectar undergoes extensive industrial processing involving enzymatic hydrolysis at high temperatures. It is not a raw or minimally processed product, despite what the packaging implies. Fructose bypasses the normal glucose pathway and goes directly to the liver, where excess amounts are converted into triglycerides and stored as liver fat, contributing to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease over time. The low glycemic index of agave, ranging from 15 to 30, is technically accurate, because GI only measures blood glucose, not fructose, which sidesteps that measurement entirely. For comparison, regular table sugar is 50% fructose, high fructose corn syrup is 55 to 58% fructose, and agave nectar is 70 to 90% fructose, making it the highest fructose commercial sweetener widely available. A 2010 study in the Journal of Clinical Investigation found that excess fructose consumption over 10 weeks produced significantly more visceral abdominal fat accumulation than equivalent glucose consumption. You replaced your sugar with something worse at a higher price while feeling superior about it. That is the full journey. You completed it. 10. Oatmeal is the gold standard of clean eating, and instant packets make it convenient. The packet says heart healthy right on the front, and you're protecting your cardiovascular system before 8 in the morning, which is an aggressive amount of virtue to accomplish before most people have made coffee. Instant flavored oatmeal packets are processed oat dust mixed with sugar, artificial flavor, and sometimes more sodium than a bag of chips. A standard flavored instant packet, maple brown sugar or apple cinnamon, contains 10 to 15 grams of added sugar and has been pre-processed into a fine flour-like consistency that digests in 10 to 15 minutes, spiking blood sugar at nearly the same speed as breakfast cereal. The heart-healthy claim on oatmeal packaging refers to beta-glucan fiber found in the whole oats. Instant oats have been rolled, steamed, and chopped so finely that the intact fiber structure is partially compromised, reducing this benefit meaningfully. Many packets also contain 150 to 200 milligrams of sodium, used as a flavor enhancer and preservative. The satiety window for instant oatmeal is 1 to 1.5 hours compared to 3 to 4 hours from steel-cut oats, because the glycemic index difference is dramatic. Steel-cut oats score approximately 42 versus instant oats at approximately 83. If you compare labels directly, a maple brown sugar instant oatmeal packet contains nearly identical sugar content to a frosted breakfast cereal of the same serving size. One carries a heart healthy claim, the other doesn't. You cooked a cookie in the hot water. 11. You're eating a salad. You want dressing, but you're being responsible, so you reach for the light version. You've done everything right. The greens are there, the vegetables are there, and you even added some cherry tomatoes. This meal is a therapeutic event. Here's what the light dressing is doing to all of that. It is preventing you from absorbing the vitamins in the salad underneath it. Vitamins A, D, E, and K are fat soluble, meaning they require dietary fat to be absorbed from the digestive tract. A 2004 Iowa State study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition confirmed that fat-free dressing resulted in near zero absorption of carotenoids, including beta-carotene, lycopene, and lutein, compared to full-fat dressing. You made the salad, you just can't use it. Beyond the absorption problem, light dressings average 5 to 10 grams of added sugar per 2 tablespoon serving, because sugar is what replaces flavor when fat is removed. Most people use 3 to 4 times the listed serving size, adding 15 to 40 grams of sugar to what they believe is a low-calorie meal. Light dressings also use thickeners like xanthan gum, modified cornstarch, and maltodextrin to replicate the mouthfeel of fat. These additives are rapidly digested carbohydrates. Sodium in light versions averages 400 to 600 milligrams per serving, often higher than full-fat alternatives. You turned a vitamin delivery system into a useless sugar vehicle by trying to make it healthier. The vegetables are in there, they're just not talking to you anymore. 12. Frozen diet meals are portion controlled, calorie counted, and all you have to do is microwave them. Someone did the hard work of eating correctly so you didn't have to. The numbers are right there on the front of the box in a reassuring font, and you feel organized just looking at them in your freezer. The average lean frozen meal contains 250 to 350 calories and 15 to 25 grams of protein, which is approximately half of what most adults need at a single meal to maintain satiety for 3 to 4 hours. You are going to be hungry again very soon. Sodium content in diet frozen meals averages 700 to 1100 milligrams per serving, which is 30 to 50% of daily recommended intake. And it's there because when manufacturers remove fat and caloric density, sodium becomes the primary flavor carrier. High sodium drives water retention and temporary weight increase that makes the scale confusing and demoralizing. The ingredients in budget frozen diet meals rely heavily on textured vegetable protein, refined starches, and sauce thickeners that are calorie dense relative to their actual volume. Studies on portion-controlled dieting show that meals below an individual's satiety threshold lead to compensatory snacking averaging 150 to 300 additional calories within 2 hours of eating, effectively negating the restriction. There's also the psychological license effect. People who eat a diet meal reward themselves with permissive snacking afterward, treating the frozen meal as a deposit they can immediately spend. You ate a responsible meal designed for a much smaller version of yourself, then ate again. The box won. 13. The fat has been pressed out of this peanut butter. You are left with the essence of it, the soul of peanut butter, without the consequences. It's the same experience, dramatically fewer calories, and your abs are basically already visible if you just stay committed to this jar. The fat removed from powdered peanut butter is the most nutritionally valuable part of the food. Natural peanut fat is approximately 80% unsaturated fat, specifically oleic acid, which is the same primary fat in olive oil. It supports cardiovascular health, reduces inflammation, and signals satiety. Removing it means you are keeping the powder and discarding the mechanism that was doing real work. Most powdered peanut butter products contain 1 to 3 grams of added sugar per serving, which is absent from natural peanut butter. The fat-soluble antioxidants, including vitamin E and resveratrol, present in peanuts are largely removed during the defatting process alongside the fat. A 2013 study in JAMA Internal Medicine found that high nut and nut butter consumers had significantly lower obesity rates than people who avoided them, and the fat content of nuts was not associated with weight gain in a whole diet context. The real problem is behavioral. Studies show people consume significantly more of powdered peanut butter than regular peanut butter because the reduced satiety from absent fat means the hunger signal returns faster and more insistently. You removed the part that was working, kept the part that needed help, added water, and called it the same thing. That is not an upgrade. 14. Coconut sugar comes from a coconut, and coconuts are tropical, ancient, associated with people who are extremely healthy and live near beaches. The glycemic index is demonstrably lower than table sugar. You found the good sweetener, the one that counts differently. Here's what your pancreas thinks about that story. Nothing. Coconut sugar is 70 to 80% sucrose, which is the same molecule as table sugar, glucose, and fructose in equal parts, with the remainder being free fructose and glucose. Chemically, it is nearly identical to table sugar in its metabolic effect. The glycemic index of coconut sugar ranges from approximately 35 to 54 versus table sugar at 65, which sounds meaningful until you account for the fact that GI measurements vary widely by testing methodology, and the real-world quantities people consume make the difference negligible in practice. The inulin fiber content of coconut sugar, frequently cited as its health benefit, is less than 1% by weight. You would need to consume absurd amounts of coconut sugar to derive a measurable prebiotic effect from it, at which point you have consumed absurd amounts of sugar. Coconut sugar does contain trace minerals including iron, zinc, and potassium, but the amounts are so small, measured in single-digit milligrams per teaspoon, that you would need to eat toxic quantities to get meaningful nutrition from them. Coconut sugar retails at 5 to 10 times the cost of table sugar per gram of sweetness delivered. The premium is paid entirely for the story. Your pancreas cannot read the label. 15. Multiple grains. That's more than one grain, which is mathematically superior to one grain. This is the cracker of a person who thinks about their food decisions. The packaging shows oats, seeds, whole wheat, maybe a rye stalk, and you feel like you're doing something that counts. The word multigrain is not a nutritional claim. It means more than one type of grain is present. That's it. They could all be refined. They usually are. US and EU food labeling laws do not require any percentage of whole grain for a product to be labeled multigrain. A cracker can be 100% refined flour, derived from multiple grain sources, and legally carry that label on the front. Most multigrain crackers list enriched wheat flour, which is refined white flour with synthetic vitamins added back, as the first ingredient. Other grain flours appear in fractional amounts further down the list. Fiber content in multigrain crackers averages half a gram to 1.5 grams per serving, compared to 3 to 5 grams in true whole grain crackers. Fiber content is the single most reliable indicator of a meaningful whole grain product, and these crackers are not delivering it. Sodium in multigrain crackers averages 150 to 250 milligrams per serving of 5 to 7 crackers, a portion most people dramatically exceed. The more palatable and light the cracker, the more extensively the grain has been processed. Several types of flour all agreed to not help you. Congratulations on your diverse white bread in cracker form. 16. Regular bacon is the villain. Turkey bacon is the hero. Same breakfast experience, leaner animal, better moral standing at the table. You are on the side of the angels, and you can prove it with the package in your recycling bin. Turkey bacon is a highly processed, sodium-saturated, reformed meat product that trades one problem for several others. It contains 70 to 85% less saturated fat than pork bacon, which sounds significant until you see what fills that space. Turkey bacon compensates with dramatically higher sodium content, averaging 400 to 600 milligrams per 2-slice serving, compared to 200 to 300 milligrams in pork bacon. To achieve a palatable texture and flavor without pork fat. Turkey bacon uses mechanically separated turkey, which is a paste of turkey remnants combined with added fats, starch fillers, and significant salt. Many brands also contain dextrose or corn syrup solids, meaning turkey bacon is literally sweetened to replace the flavor lost when you remove the pork fat. Nitrite and nitrate preservatives appear in most turkey bacon at comparable or higher levels than in cured pork products, and these compounds form nitrosamines during high heat cooking, which are associated with increased cancer risk. The caloric comparison per slice is 35 to 40 calories for turkey bacon versus 40 to 45 for pork bacon, a difference so small it is irrelevant to any diet. You chose the product made of turkey paste, sodium, sweetener, and ambition, then cooked it until the questionable compounds activated. Groundbreaking trade. 17 baked, not fried. The chip has made the same lifestyle transformation you're attempting. It went through something and came out changed, leaner, better, with something to prove. You respect that. You're kindred spirits. Baked chips have 20 to 30% fewer calories than fried chips, which sounds like progress until you understand what happens next. Studies show that the average person consumes approximately 30% more of a food when it's labeled healthier, which means the calorie gap between baked and fried closes before you finish the bag. The fat removed from baked chips is replaced with higher starch concentrations and often maltodextrin to maintain structure. These refined carbohydrates digest rapidly and offer no satiety advantage over the fat they replaced. Baked chips also score consistently lower on palatability measures, including crunch, mouthfeel, and flavor satisfaction. Sensory dissatisfaction is a documented driver of continued eating because the brain keeps seeking the reward signal it hasn't received, and it will keep eating until something satisfies it or it runs out of chips, whichever comes first. Sodium in baked chips averages 150 to 250 milligrams per 1 ounce serving, often comparable to or higher than fried chips, a number most people significantly exceed. The health halo effect from baked labeling is so psychologically powerful that in blind taste tests, people report food labeled baked as tasting better and feeling more satisfying, even when tasting the identical product. The chip committed to self-improvement and remained a chip. Your response was to eat more of it to congratulate both of you. 18. It's fruit. Fruit is healthy. This is just fruit that someone stored carefully. You're eating grapes or blueberries or apricots, just in a more travel-friendly format. This is basically a farm stand visit that fits in your bag. Dried fruit is a dehydrated sugar bomb with the serving size of a small child's fist and the caloric density of candy. When you remove water from fruit, you concentrate all of its sugars into a dramatically smaller volume. 1 cup of grapes contains 62 calories. 1 cup of raisins, the same fruit, contains 434 calories. That is 7 times the caloric density from the identical food with the water removed. Most commercially dried fruit also has sugar added before or during the drying process. Dried cranberries and cherries routinely contain 25 to 30 grams of added sugar per 1/4 cup serving because their natural tartness requires sweetening to be commercially palatable. Dried fruit's high sugar concentration combined with its sticky texture makes it particularly damaging to dental health because the sugars adhere to tooth enamel significantly longer than liquid sugars. The fiber content per calorie in dried fruit is lower than fresh fruit, meaning you consume far more calories to get the same fiber. Portion distortion with dried fruit is severe because the food is small, casual to handle, and lacks the visual bulk signal of fresh fruit. Most people consume 3 to 4 times the recommended serving without registering it as a meaningful amount. You shrank the fruit until it could no longer communicate how much of it you'd eaten. That is not food prep. 19. 0 calories, 0 sugar, just bubbles, and something that vaguely reminds you of a fruit you once enjoyed. This is drinking essentially nothing. You've found the perfect beverage, all the satisfaction of carbonation, with absolutely none of the consequences. Flavored sparkling water is quietly eroding your tooth enamel, and the phrase natural flavors on the label is one of the most legally meaningless designations in food manufacturing. Carbonated water forms carbonic acid during production, giving it a pH of approximately 3.5 to 4.5, and repeated exposure to this acidity softens tooth enamel over time. Dental studies consistently associate regular carbonated beverage consumption with increased enamel sensitivity and erosion. Citric acid, added to most flavored sparkling waters for taste, is more erosive to enamel than carbonation alone and appears as a third or fourth ingredient in most popular brands. The FDA defines natural flavor as any substance derived from a natural source, a definition broad enough to encompass thousands of compounds, including extraction byproducts that undergo extensive chemical processing. The final compound may bear no structural resemblance to the original natural source. Some flavored sparkling waters also contain trace compounds that activate sweet taste receptors, including stevia derivatives or erythritol, without prominent label disclosure. None of this makes flavored sparkling water dangerous at moderate consumption. It is vastly superior to soda. But the marketing of these products as entirely consequence-free beverages ignores documented effects on dental health that accumulate quietly over years. You found the loophole. The loophole found your enamel. Nothing is free, not even the bubbles. 20 chickpeas, olive oil, sesame, ancient food, Mediterranean diet, exactly what your doctor told you to eat more of. You make a big batch, you portion it into containers, you feel like a person who has genuinely solved lunch. The hummus is not the problem is the way people actually eat hummus. A standard 2 tablespoon serving is 70 to 80 calories, which is a reasonable snack component. The average person consumes 6 to 8 tablespoons per sitting, 320 calories of hummus alone. Because the listed serving size is so small, it doesn't register as a portion to a functioning adult. Hummus is almost always paired with a refined delivery vehicle. Pita, bread, crackers, pretzels, and bagel chips each add 150 to 300 calories per snacking session, turning the hummus into a condiment on a refined carbohydrate platform. Commercial hummus contains significant sodium, 130 to 200 milligrams per 2 tablespoon serving, which is underappreciated because the food registers cognitively as clean and whole. Many commercial varieties also add seed oils like canola or soybean for texture and shelf stability, in addition to or replacing olive oil, a meaningful change from traditional recipes that rarely appears on front of package labels. The high caloric density of hummus, combining chickpeas, oil, and tahini, means even the actual serving size is more calorie dense than most people expect from something they mentally file under vegetables. The hummus was innocent. The pita chips know what they did. 21, it has vitamins, it has electrolytes. It has a color that implies berries were involved in something meaningful before becoming this drink. You're hydrating and supplementing simultaneously with one elegant product. A standard 20-ounce bottle of popular enhanced water contains 120 calories and 31 grams of crystalline fructose and cane sugar. This is a sugared beverage. The label is formatted to show nutrition per serving, and there are 2.5 servings per bottle, which means the calorie and sugar numbers you glance at need to be multiplied by 2.5 before they apply to the bottle in your hand. The vitamins added to enhanced waters are primarily B vitamins and vitamin C, which are water soluble. Your body excretes them in urine when consumed in excess of daily needs, which means anyone eating a varied diet is simply producing expensive, vitamin-colored urine. The electrolyte content is negligible for actual hydration or recovery purposes because sodium and potassium levels are far below what sports physiology requires for meaningful electrolyte replacement. Coca-Cola, which owns Vitamin Water, was sued in a class action lawsuit over misleading health claims. In its legal defense, the company argued that no consumer could reasonably be misled into thinking vitamin water was a healthy beverage, while simultaneously continuing to market it to people who reasonably believed exactly that. The zero-sugar versions swap sugar for erythritol and stevia, which resolves the sugar issue but does nothing to address the behavioral pattern of treating sugar water as a health product. A corporation told a court that no reasonable person would believe their health drink was healthy. You might be the intended market. 22. Quinoa is the sacred grain, ancient, complete protein, every amino acid present and accounted for. You make big batches on Sundays, portion them into containers, and feel like a person who has optimized something fundamental about their relationship with food. Quinoa is nutritionally excellent. It is also calorie dense enough that the portions most people actually eat make it a significant caloric contributor to a meal, not a diet food. 1 cup of cooked quinoa contains 222 calories, 39 grams of carbohydrates, and 8 grams of protein. Those are good macros for a whole grain. But most meal servings use 1.5 to 2 cups, meaning 330 to 450 calories from quinoa before anything else on the plate has been considered. Quinoa's protein quality with its complete amino acid profile is exceptional, but this benefit is nutritionally redundant for most people already consuming adequate animal protein, and protein's role in fat loss depends on total daily intake, not individual source. The superfood designation causes documented serving size inflation. People consistently eat more foods they believe are healthy, erasing caloric advantages that only exist at appropriate portions. Quinoa's glycemic index is approximately 53, which is moderate rather than low, meaning it contributes meaningfully to blood glucose load when consumed in the quantities typical of restaurant bowls or meal prep containers. You chose the excellent food and then ate twice as much of it because you earned it. Quinoa is not the problem. Your relationship with quinoa is the problem. 23. Cold pressed. That is a very specific, very deliberate pressure. Industrial hydraulic equipment was involved. Someone cared deeply about the temperature at which your juice was made. This is practically artisanal health in a bottle. Cold pressing versus centrifugal juicing has no meaningful impact on sugar content, caloric density, or glycemic response. Both methods produce fiber-free sugar liquid. The cold refers to the absence of heat, not the presence of nutritional superiority over conventional juicing. A 16-ounce cold-pressed green juice averages 200 to 350 calories and 30 to 50 grams of sugar, and even vegetable-heavy blends contain apple, pear, or beet juice as sweetening agents that dominate the overall sugar profile. Without fiber, the fructose in cold-pressed juice is absorbed within minutes, producing an insulin response comparable to soda despite the premium branding and thoughtful packaging. The vitamins in juice also begin oxidizing immediately upon pressing. Commercial cold-pressed products have a 3 to 5 day shelf life, meaning significant nutrient degradation has occurred before the bottle reaches you. Cold-pressed juice retails at $8 to $14 per bottle, which creates a premium equals healthy cognitive association that consumer psychology research consistently shows overrides nutritional evaluation. People spend more money and assume the food is proportionally better for them. This association is extremely profitable and not remotely supported by the nutritional data. You pay $12 for someone to remove the only thing the fruit was doing for you and bottle the remainder with a story about hydraulic pressure. The apple did not need this. 24. Removing fat from milk removes the mechanism your body needs to absorb milk's fat-soluble nutrients, and it increases the blood sugar impact of every glass. Skim milk is the responsible dairy choice. All the calcium, none of the fat. You are extracting the benefit while avoiding the burden, which is the dietary equivalent of a cheat code, and you feel smart about it. Vitamins A and D in milk are fat-soluble, meaning they require dietary fat present at the same meal to be properly absorbed. When fat is removed from milk, these vitamins must be artificially added back during processing, and without fat in the glass, absorption of those added vitamins is significantly impaired. You are consuming fortified milk whose fortification is partially negated by the very process that created it. Skim milk also has a higher glycemic index than whole milk because fat normally slows lactose absorption. Without fat, blood glucose rises more sharply after drinking a glass. A 2016 longitudinal study published in Circulation tracked 18,000 women and found that higher full-fat dairy intake was associated with lower risk of overweight and obesity over time, which is the opposite of what skim milk marketing has implied for decades. The fat removed from skim milk is sold as cream and butter, meaning the dairy industry profits from selling the fat separately while marketing what remains as the premium healthy option. Whole milk's caloric advantage over skim is 50 to 60 calories per 8-ounce serving, its difference easily offset by the improved satiety that prevents subsequent snacking. They sold you what was left after they sold someone else the good part. 25. Gluten-free means better, cleaner, less of the bad thing. You don't have celiac disease, but you have a persistent feeling that gluten might have been quietly working against you this entire time, and you'd rather be cautious. Gluten-free packaged food is frequently worse nutritionally than the product it replaces, and it costs significantly more for the downgrade. Gluten provides the structure and texture in baked goods. Without it, manufacturers substitute rice flour, tapioca starch, potato starch, and corn starch, all of which are rapidly digestible refined carbohydrates with glycemic indices ranging from 70 to 95. Gluten-free bread typically contains less protein, 2 to 3 grams per slice, versus 4 to 5 grams in whole wheat, less fiber, half a gram to 1 gram versus 2 to 3 grams, and more sugar than comparable conventional products. A 2018 study in the British Medical Journal found no cardiovascular benefit to gluten-free diets for people without celiac disease and raised concern that avoiding whole grains could reduce beneficial fiber intake. Xanthan gum, the primary structural substitute for gluten in most gluten-free products, can cause the gastrointestinal distress that many people attribute to gluten and attempt to resolve by going gluten-free. The global gluten-free food market exceeded $6.2 billion in 2023, driven primarily by wellness trend adoption. Industry analysts estimate only 5 to 7% of gluten-free consumers have a diagnosed gluten-related condition. You removed a protein your body handled fine and replaced it with starch, your body handles worse. The receipt was twice as long. 26. Vanilla-flavored soy milk is plant-based, dairy-free, one of the original alternatives, and it makes your cereal and your coffee taste like a reasonable life decision. Vanilla-flavored soy milk contains 9 to 13 grams of added sugar per 8-ounce serving. Unsweetened soy milk contains 1 to 2 grams of naturally occurring sugars. The gap between those two numbers is entirely added sweetener, and it accumulates significantly if you use soy milk liberally across coffee, cereal, and smoothies throughout the day. The vanilla flavor itself is almost certainly artificial. Most commercial soy milks use vanillin rather than vanilla extract. Vanillin is synthesized from wood pulp byproducts or petrochemical processes and bears no nutritional relationship to an actual vanilla bean. Carrageenan, a seaweed-derived thickener used in many soy milks for texture, has been linked in animal studies to intestinal inflammation, though human study data remains mixed. Most people consume vanilla soy milk as a neutral base while perceiving it as no different from plain soy milk. The sugar differential adds 150 to 200 additional calories per day for people who use it generously, which is a meaningful daily caloric addition delivered invisibly through a beverage most people don't think of as a food decision. Full plain soy milk is genuinely excellent nutritionally, with 7 to 8 grams of protein per cup and a profile comparable to dairy milk. It is the strongest cow's milk alternative by most dietitian assessments. You chose the plant-based option and then ordered it flavored. A dessert tier amount of sugar arrived without announcing itself. 27 0 calories per serving on the label. You spray it, nothing is added, food doesn't stick, and you feel like you found the frictionless option. Cooking without consequence, a result without a cost. 0 calorie cooking spray has calories. The FDA allows manufacturers to round down to 0 if a serving contains fewer than 5 calories. The listed serving size is 1/3 of a second of spray. No human hand is physically capable of executing a 1/3 second spray consistently. A realistic 3 to 5 second spray delivers approximately 30 to 50 calories, equivalent to a teaspoon of oil, but without any of the visual or tactile feedback that would make you register using that much oil. The spray format makes it nearly impossible to estimate how much has been applied, which is precisely why the serving size is set where it is. The primary oil in most cooking sprays, canola, sunflower, or soy, is aerosolized with propellant gases. When people switch from measured oil to cooking spray, they typically increase total oil consumption because they spray longer and more frequently under the assumption of 0 consequence. The spray format also builds up a residue on pans over repeated uses that cannot be removed by standard dishwashing and causes discoloration and chemical off-gassing at high temperatures over time. You are eating oil from a can labeled nothing because no one can press a button for 1/3 of a second. The label is technically accurate. It is also specifically designed to be impossible to replicate. The calories are in there. They're just very fast. 28 acai antioxidants, gorgeous colors. A beach in Brazil was somewhere involved in this product's origin story. The bowl is served on a bamboo cutting board at a place with exposed brick walls. This is both breakfast and a spiritual experience, and you are making choices that align with your values. A standard 16-ounce commercial acai bowl averages 400 to 700 calories, 60 to 90 grams of carbohydrates, and 45 to 70 grams of sugar from the sweetened acai base, the honey or agave drizzle, the granola, the banana, and the fruit toppings layered together. Commercial acai bases, the frozen purees used at most smoothie shops, are pre-sweetened because pure unsweetened acai is intensely tart and commercially unpalatable without added sugar. No one is eating an unsweetened acai bowl at a retail establishment. The granola topping adds 200 to 250 calories and 10 to 15 additional grams of sugar per typical scoop. Raw acai berries do have exceptional antioxidant scores, and this is real. But the antioxidant content delivered in a commercial sweetened bowl is dramatically reduced from whole berry values, and antioxidant capacity of food does not linearly translate to measurable human health benefit in the quantities present here. Acai bowls are typically consumed as breakfast or a healthy snack, contexts where their caloric load, equivalent to a full sit-down meal, is dramatically underestimated. You ate dessert out of a bowl that had been photographed in natural light. The antioxidants were present, so were the consequences. 29, same jar, familiar label, but the words reduced fat are right there. You're making the upgraded choice within the same beloved product category. You didn't have to give up peanut butter, you just made a more responsible version of the same decision, and that feels like progress. Reduced fat peanut butter replaces removed fat with added sugar and fillers, and the fat it removes is the nutritionally valuable kind. In a direct label comparison, regular peanut butter contains 16 grams of fat and 3 grams of sugar, while the reduced fat version contains 12 grams of fat and 4 grams of sugar plus added corn syrup solids to compensate for the flavor lost when you remove the fat. The caloric difference is 10 to 15 calories per serving, a gap so small it is nutritionally meaningless. The fat removed from peanut butter, primarily oleic acid and linoleic acid, is monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fat associated with improved cardiovascular markers and satiety signaling. Replacing these fats with carbohydrate fillers like maltodextrin and corn syrup solids produces a nutritionally inferior product that also digests faster, returns hunger sooner, and contributes to higher overall caloric intake throughout the day because the satiety mechanism is fat-driven and it is now reduced. Full-fat natural peanut butter, with ingredients listed as peanuts and salt and nothing else, has consistently outperformed reduced fat processed versions in long-term dietary studies measuring weight management outcomes. They removed what was satiating you, put sugar where it was, and charged you the same amount. The jar is not your friend in this scenario. 30. Oats are healthy. You turned oats into milk. This is nutritional alchemy in the best possible sense, and it makes a genuinely better latte than you expected. Dairy-free, tree nut-free, soy-free, and it foams. This milk is objectively winning. Commercial oat milk is a high glycemic, high carbohydrate liquid that spikes blood sugar rapidly and delivers a fraction of whole oats' nutritional value because the processing required to make it strips out what made the oat useful. During oat milk production, oats are blended with water and then enzyme treated with amylase to break down starches into simple sugars for improved texture and sweetness. This process converts whole oat carbohydrates into rapidly digestible maltose, giving commercial oat milk a glycemic index of approximately 69 to 86, significantly higher than dairy milk at 30 to 40. A cup of commercial oat milk contains 16 to 19 grams of carbohydrates versus dairy milk's 12 grams of lactose, and the absorption rate is faster due to enzymatic pre-processing. Oat milk contains 1 to 3 grams of protein per cup compared to dairy milk's 8 grams and soy milk's 7 to 8, making it the lowest protein content among major milk alternatives. Rapeseed or canola oil is added to most commercial oat milks for fat content and mouthfeel, a detail rarely highlighted on front of package marketing. The beta-glucan fiber in whole oats, the component responsible for cholesterol reduction and satiety, is largely destroyed during oat milk production. Oat milk retains approximately 0.3 to 1 gram of beta-glucan per cup compared to 2 to 3 grams in a serving of whole oats. You liquefied the oat until it forgot what it was. 31. It says sugar-free on the label. Sugar is the problem, and this product has none of the problem. This is candy that has resolved its own central conflict. You're eating it because you're managing something, and you deserve to manage it with chocolate. Sugar-free candy is loaded with sugar alcohols that carry caloric content, cause significant gastrointestinal side effects, and are still metabolized by your body as carbohydrates with real insulin-relevant activity. The most common sugar alcohol in sugar-free candy is maltitol, which provides 2.1 calories per gram compared to sugar's 4. A 40-gram serving of sugar-free chocolate still delivers approximately 80 to 100 calories from maltitol alone. Maltitol has a glycemic index of 35, which is high for a sugar substitute and capable of raising blood sugar meaningfully in people with diabetes or insulin resistance, who are the primary consumers of these products. Sugar alcohols are incompletely absorbed in the small intestine. The remainder is fermented by gut bacteria in the large intestine, producing gas, bloating, cramping, and osmotic diarrhea. These effects can be severe enough that the FDA requires products containing more than 50 grams of sugar alcohols to carry a laxative warning on the label, a warning that is present and that most people do not read before eating the whole bag. Many sugar-free chocolates also compensate for reduced sweetness by increasing fat content, maintaining caloric density near or above the regular version. You chose the candy that removed the sugar and installed a gastrointestinal incident as a replacement. At least it happened where you had time to read the label properly. 32. Pretzels are the responsible party snack. Low fat, salty, social, easy to eat in public without anyone questioning you, and they pair with everything. You can eat them in a meeting. They feel like a concession that costs nothing, a snack that barely counts. Plain pretzels have a glycemic index of 81 to 83, higher than white bread at 71 to 75, and comparable to instant mashed potatoes. They are pure, rapidly digestible, refined starch, and the reason they feel light and guiltless is the same reason they undermine you. The fat is genuinely low at 1 to 2 grams per ounce, but fat is what slows digestion and creates satiety. Its absence means pretzels digest rapidly, blood sugar spikes and crashes quickly, and hunger returns within 30 to 45 minutes of eating them. Pretzels offer negligible protein at 2 to 3 grams per ounce and under 1 gram of fiber per ounce. Those are the two macronutrients most responsible for satiety alongside fat, and pretzels have functionally none of any of them. Sodium averages 300 to 500 milligrams per 1 ounce serving, a number most people multiply by 2 or 3 before they put the bag down, delivering 600 to 1500 milligrams of sodium from a single casual snacking session. The low-fat association causes pretzels to be consumed without cognitive monitoring. People treat them as a neutral background food when they are one of the most glycemically impactful snacks commercially available. You chose the snack made of flour and salt because it lacked fat. It also lacked the fat that would have made you stop eating it. 33. Fermented, probiotic, ancient, temperamental, brewed with a living culture that someone's grandmother in an unspecified country has been maintaining for 60 years. Your gut is a garden, and this is the water for it. Commercial kombucha has been pasteurized in many widely available brands, killing the probiotics. It contains significant sugar in most flavored varieties. And the human clinical evidence for its specific health benefits is substantially weaker than the marketing implies. Fermentation of kombucha begins with a significant quantity of sugar used to feed the live culture. Commercial brands retain 2 to 12 grams of residual sugar per 8-ounce serving after fermentation, and popular flavored varieties reach 14 grams per serving. Many commercial kombuchas sold in the United States are heat-treated or pasteurized to control alcohol content and extend shelf life, a process that kills the live active cultures that are the product's central health claim. The health claim is therefore technically absent from many bottles on the shelf. Human clinical evidence for kombucha specifically, as distinct from probiotics generally, is extremely limited. Most claim benefits, including gut health, immunity, and detoxification, are extrapolated from general probiotic research rather than kombucha-specific studies. Kombucha's alcohol content, typically 0.5 to 3% ABV, is higher than most consumers expect. Some brands have been found to exceed labeled alcohol content in independent testing. The acidity of kombucha at a pH of 2.5 to 3.5 is comparable to other acidic beverages and poses a documented risk to tooth enamel with regular consumption. The grandmother would have recognized what you're drinking. The probiotics may not have survived the journey to the shelf. 34. Protein pasta. Pasta that is also protein. You have unified two things you want into a single food vessel, and the macros on the label confirm you are doing something real. The pasta now works for you. The protein premium in legume pasta is genuine but modest. The caloric difference from conventional pasta is negligible, and most people eat it in portions that cancel any advantage that existed at the serving size. Chickpea pasta contains approximately 13 grams of protein per 2-ounce dry serving compared to 7 to 8 grams for conventional pasta. That is a real difference. But it is still lower than the protein in 2 ounces of chicken at 14 to 16 grams at a fraction of the caloric cost per gram of protein. Caloric content of chickpea and lentil pasta sits at 190 to 200 calories per 2-ounce dry serving, nearly identical to conventional semolina pasta at 200 to 210 calories. The healthier pasta provides no caloric advantage at equivalent portions. The glycemic index of legume pasta, ranging from 32 to 45, is genuinely lower than conventional pasta at 45 to 60, a real benefit for blood sugar management. But this benefit is dose dependent and is erased at large portions. Restaurant and home serving sizes of pasta average 4 to 6 ounces dry, doubled or tripled from a listed serving, at which point the protein and carbohydrate load is substantial regardless of pasta type. The sauce, oil, cheese, and bread accompanying a pasta meal contribute far more to its caloric profile than the variety of pasta chosen. You upgraded the vehicle and then drove it twice as far. 35. Natural peanut butter is already excellent. Someone added honey. Honey is natural, ancient, produced by bees through a process that took millions of years to evolve. And it feels like a collaboration between this jar and the natural world. This is the peanut butter of a person who values craft. Adding honey to peanut butter creates a product with natural peanut butter's caloric density plus added sugar your body treats identically to any other sugar, regardless of which organism produced it. Natural peanut butter contains 0 grams of added sugar. Honey peanut butter variants contain 3 to 5 grams of added sugar per 2 tablespoons serving from honey or cane sugar. That is a modest but real addition. The health benefits of honey documented in research appear at therapeutic doses, a minimum of 20 to 40 grams per day in clinical studies. The 1 to 2 teaspoons of honey present in peanut butter deliver negligible functional honey content. You are receiving the sugar without the dose required to produce the effect. Honey's glycemic index ranges from 58 to 65, which is lower than table sugar at 65, but not dramatically so. And the fructose component of honey, approximately 40% fructose, follows the same metabolic pathway as all dietary fructose: liver processing and potential fat storage. Research on natural labeled foods shows that this framing increases intake volume by an average of 26% compared to equivalent unlabeled products. You added sugar to a functional food because the sugar came from a bee, and that made it feel like a collaboration rather than a compromise. The pancreas processes neither the bee's intentions nor its branding. 36. They made pizza out of vegetables. You can eat pizza. This is a solved problem, and the universe appears to be on your side for once. Cauliflower pizza crust is held together by significant quantities of cheese, eggs, and starch, making many commercial versions calorie equivalent to what they replace, with a texture that tends to drive overconsumption. Commercial frozen cauliflower pizza crusts average 130 to 160 calories per 1/3 pizza serving, comparable to thin crust, conventional pizza at 120 to 150 calories per serving. Cauliflower content in most commercial cauliflower pizza crusts is 10 to 25% by weight. The remaining 75 to 90% is mozzarella cheese, eggs, rice flour, cornstarch, and tapioca. Calling it a cauliflower crust is accurate in the same way calling a glass of orange juice with 2 crackers dissolved in it a cracker would be accurate. The satisfaction gap with cauliflower alternatives is documented. The softer, chewier texture of cauliflower crust is consistently less sensorially satisfying than conventional crust, leading to higher total consumption as the brain searches for the reward signal it hasn't fully received. Cauliflower rice, fresh or frozen with no additions, is one of the genuinely excellent alternatives, with 25 calories per cup versus white rice's 200 calories, and this validation makes the broader cauliflower alternative category seem more uniformly beneficial than it is. The psychological permission granted by "it's cauliflower" leads to heavier topping loading, extra cheese, extra sauce, additional protein, adding 150 to 300 calories beyond the misleading base. The vegetable was trying, you complicated it. 37. Greek yogurt is the protein-rich, probiotic-dense darling of the health food world, and you got the strawberry-flavored one because plain is a commitment to suffering that you respect but cannot maintain. Strawberry is still Greek, probably. Flavored low-fat Greek yogurt erases most of Greek yogurt's nutritional advantages by replacing fat with sugar and compromising the probiotic culture through the acidic environment required to stabilize commercial fruit fillings. A plain full-fat Greek yogurt contains 9 grams of protein, 9 grams of fat, 5 grams of naturally occurring sugar, and approximately 170 calories per cup. A flavored low-fat version contains 10 grams of protein, 0 to 2 grams of fat, 18 to 24 grams of added sugar, and 120 to 160 calories. It has more sugar, less fat, and significantly shorter satiety duration. The live active cultures in Greek yogurt are sensitive to acidity. Most commercial flavored yogurts contain heat-treated fruit preparations that create an acidic environment, destabilizing beneficial bacteria over the shelf life of the product. The fruit at the bottom in most flavored Greek yogurts is a high-sugar jam, not whole fruit or even fruit puree. In controlled study conditions, participants eating full-fat plain Greek yogurt consumed 100 to 150 fewer calories at subsequent meals compared to those eating flavored low-fat versions, because the satiety signal lasted longer. Some flavored Greek yogurt varieties contain more sugar per gram than ice cream. You took the best version of the food, removed what made it work, filled the gap with jam, and flew a Greek flag over it. 38. One shake replaces a meal. You don't have to cook, choose, think, or open a refrigerator with any real intent. The plan is done. A company with a staff of nutritionists did the math, and you just drink the result. Meal replacement shakes are engineered to hit minimum calorie numbers on paper while being physiologically incapable of replacing the satiety of a real meal. Classic meal replacement shakes provide roughly 180 to 250 calories, 15 grams of protein, and 18 to 25 grams of sugar. The protein is adequate, the sugar is high. The total caloric content is below what most adults need to feel full for 3 or more hours, which means compensatory hunger arrives on a very reliable schedule. Most meal replacement shakes use maltodextrin as a primary carbohydrate source, a highly processed starch derived from corn with a glycemic index of 85 to 105, higher than table sugar. It spikes blood sugar rapidly and contributes to rapid hunger return. Liquid calories are less satiating than the equivalent calories from solid food. Research published in Current Biology and confirmed by multiple satiety studies shows that chewing and digesting solid food triggers hormonal satiety signals, including CCK, GLP-1, and PYY, that liquid consumption does not replicate regardless of caloric content. Long-term use of meal replacement programs shows strong initial weight loss over 8 to 12 weeks, followed by significant weight regain when returning to normal eating, because the caloric restriction is never paired with the behavioral or metabolic adaptation needed to sustain it. You handed your hunger to a corporation that agreed to confuse it for a few weeks. The hunger never went anywhere. 39, yogurt covered. That sounds like dairy. Like something cultured and beneficial might be involved in that white coating. Like probiotics are doing something thoughtful on the surface of this raisin or pretzel, and you are receiving the benefit. The white coating on yogurt-covered snacks is legally classified as a confectionery coating. Its primary ingredients are sugar, partially hydrogenated palm kernel oil, and dried yogurt powder, which is present at approximately 2 to 4% of coating weight. There are no live active cultures in any commercial yogurt coating. The drying and temperature process required to produce a stable confectionery coating that sits on a shelf without melting kills all bacterial cultures before the product is packaged. What you are eating is candy with a dairy-adjacent ingredient present in trace amounts. A 1/4 cup serving of yogurt-covered raisins contains approximately 150 to 180 calories, 20 to 24 grams of sugar, and 6 to 8 grams of fat, which is comparable to a small chocolate bar with zero probiotic benefit and minimal nutritional distinction from confectionery. The raisins themselves provide 1.5 to 2 grams of fiber per serving, which is the sole nutritional advantage, and one that is available from plain raisins at a fraction of the caloric cost and without a candy coating. Yogurt-covered snacks are disproportionately marketed to children and parents as a healthier treat alternative, and the yogurt framing creates parental permission to serve what is functionally candy. Someone dipped candy in the word yogurt. It worked. The coating is sugar that did an internship at a dairy. 40, it's just fruit frozen on a stick with an ingredient list so short it feels genuinely honest. This is the most transparent food you've encountered in months, and you feel good about reaching for it. Many fruit bars list fruit juice concentrate as the primary ingredient. Concentrate is fruit with water removed, meaning it is significantly higher in sugar per volume than whole fruit. You are eating compressed fruit sugar, not whole fruit, and the distinction matters to your blood glucose. A mango fruit bar, made with 100% mango puree, the better variety, contains 70 to 90 calories and 15 to 18 grams of sugar in a single bar. That is a reasonable treat at an appropriate portion. The problem is that fruit bars are commonly consumed in multiples and perceived as essentially free calories, which is not a perception the nutritional reality supports. Fiber, the component that makes fruit functional for blood sugar management, is largely absent in fruit bars. Puree-based bars retain some fiber at half a gram to 2 grams, but juice-based bars contain nearly none. The cold temperature of frozen treats creates a sensory effect of consuming something more substantial than the calories present, and research shows consumers underestimate the caloric content of frozen treats by 40 to 60% compared to room temperature equivalents. No added sugar fruit bars still contain the total sugar of the whole fruit used, concentrated into a small volume with minimal fiber to slow its absorption. You trusted the short ingredient list and didn't notice that mango and mango sugar on a stick are related, but different propositions. 41. Regular syrup is obviously dessert, but the sugar-free bottle is right there, and you poured it freely because the math said 0. You win breakfast. You're already ahead. Sugar-free syrup achieves its sweetness primarily through sucralose, or acetylsulfame K, and its near zero calorie count, approximately 10 calories per 1/4 cup versus 210 for regular maple syrup, produces a powerful permission effect that causes users to pour 50 to 100% more syrup than they would of the regular version. The caloric savings evaporate before you've set the bottle down. Many sugar-free syrups also use sorbitol or maltitol as partial sweeteners, which add laxative effects at high consumption and deliver approximately 20 to 40 residual calories per heavy serving. Regular pure maple syrup contains manganese, zinc, and trace antioxidants. Sugar-free syrup contains none of these. Both are condiments, but one has marginally more to offer at a controlled portion, and the controlled portion is where this entire discussion collapses. The pancakes, waffles, or French toast carrying the sugar-free syrup are typically 300 to 600 calories per serving before any topping has been considered. The syrup swap is a rounding error on a large number that most people are not looking at. The ongoing research on artificial sweeteners like sucralose and acetylsulfame K in relation to gut microbiome. Effects is not conclusive, but regular heavy use raises questions that daily consumption does not leave time to resolve. You replace 210 calories with 10 calories and then poured 300 calories of pancakes to celebrate the savings. 42. Edamame, plant-based protein, Japanese restaurant, ordered instead of the fried appetizer. You are visibly making better decisions than the people around you, and you know it, and they know it, and you are all aware of the dynamic. Edamame is nutritionally genuine. A standard restaurant serving of approximately 1 cup shelled contains 190 to 240 calories, 16 to 18 grams of protein, and 8 grams of fiber. Those are good numbers for an appetizer. The issue is the sodium and the behavioral context in which edamame is consumed. Restaurant salted edamame averages 500 to 900 milligrams of sodium per standard serving, which is a substantial portion of the daily recommended intake of 1,500 to 2,300 milligrams delivered before the main course arrives. Edamame's high protein and fiber content is genuinely satiating when eaten as a structured part of a meal. But restaurant edamame is served as a casual, shared snack, consumed while drinking and talking without portion consciousness, which transforms a nutritional asset into an unconscious eating event. Frozen home edamame with no added salt contains approximately 120 to 140 calories per cup with negligible sodium. The restaurant preparation triples the sodium of the identical food. There is also the documented license effect, where people who begin a meal with an item they identify as healthy justify higher calorie, higher sodium main course choices, resulting in a net caloric outcome that is worse than if they had skipped the appetizer entirely. You made the right choice and then salted it until the right choice became a sodium event. 43, the box has a nature scene on it. The font looks hand-lettered by someone who wakes up early and cares deeply about grains. It says fiber, whole grain, heart, healthy, and carries a check mark from an organization that sounds authoritative. This is the breakfast of people who have made peace with themselves and their mortality. Many cereals marketed as healthy contain more sugar per serving than a glazed donut. Raisin Bran contains 17 to 19 grams of sugar per 1 cup serving, because the raisins are coated in sugar before inclusion and sugar itself appears as a primary ingredient. A glazed donut contains approximately 12 grams of sugar. The word whole grain on cereal packaging requires only that whole grain is listed first among ingredients. It says nothing about the proportion. Many cereals are 40 to 60% refined grain by total weight. Added isolated fiber, including inulin, chicory root fiber, and psyllium husk, is used to boost fiber numbers on the nutrition label without delivering the whole food fiber matrix that meaningfully regulates blood sugar. The glycemic response to high-fiber cereal containing isolated fiber is measurably worse than cereal with intact grain fiber. Cereal serving sizes, typically 3/4 of a cup to 1 cup, are dramatically smaller than what people pour. The average breakfast bowl holds 2 to 3 cups of cereal, meaning every number on the nutrition label must be multiplied by 2 to 3 before it applies to your actual breakfast. The hard healthy claim on cereals is regulated for soluble fiber content only. It makes no statement about sugar, sodium, or caloric density. The check mark checked the right box. It just wasn't the box you were looking at. 44, 1 scoop in the morning, dozens of superfoods, spirulina, chlorella, ashwagandha, matcha, moringa, all of them simultaneously, every morning. You are not eating breakfast. You are taking your medicine, and the medicine contains everything. Most green superfood powders deliver their impressive ingredient list in quantities so small that the clinical doses at which research demonstrates effects are rarely met by a single scoop, or in some cases, 10 scoops. A typical 10 to 12 gram scoop contains 20 to 40 ingredients. The math means most active compounds are present at 200 to 500 milligrams or less per ingredient. Clinical research for ashwagandha, the most studied adaptogen in this category, uses a minimum effective dose of 300 to 600 milligrams per day. The powder may deliver this for ashwagandha at the low end. Spirulina, chlorella, moringa, and the remaining 30 plus ingredients share whatever milligrams remain. Spirulina's documented benefits in cholesterol reduction and blood sugar management have been demonstrated at 1 to 8 grams per day in research settings. Most green powders contain 200 to 500 milligrams. Many commercial superfood powders use proprietary blends, a legal mechanism allowing manufacturers to list all ingredients without disclosing individual amounts, making clinical dose verification impossible for consumers or regulators. The FDA's regulatory framework for dietary supplements does not require manufacturers to demonstrate efficacy before marketing claims are made. The global market for greens powders exceeded $3 billion, despite a systematic review in the British Journal of Nutrition finding insufficient human clinical evidence for the specific formulation sold commercially. You are taking a microdose of 40 things that might work at a dose you are not receiving. The ingredients are real. The dose is fiction. If you want to see more, click the video on screen now.